I have the pleasure of announcing Angie Ferguson's going to introduce the first new corporate member of this Rotary year, and which is Drug-Free Clubs of America. Second thing, we're going to have our annual meeting where we as members are going to elect our next president nominee and our new board members for 2026. And we have the pleasure of introducing Devin Whelan, who's going to talk about his overcoming the odds and being a paratriathlete. And so those are the three things we're going to cover today. It's going to be awesome. Appreciate everybody, the view. That was a record turnout. Beautiful space. Listening to Rob a lot and the Kharkiv friends and partners. Today we're going to kick it off with Bob Branstetter and Janet Betzlar with the national anthem.
Thank you, President Hill. Please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to be here. You inspire us every day. Thank you for this wonderful meeting. Thank you for the food that's been prepared for us. And please inspire us to continue with our goal of service above self. Amen. And now let us repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
We're going to call Ben Busby, Sergeant of Arms, to announce the guests and visiting Rotarians.
Good afternoon. We would like to warm welcome to a couple guests we have this evening. First is Heather Richard, above par business. She's here with us today, and I'll make a shot to the guest. She's a guest of our speaker. Give them a warm welcome.
Today's meeting sponsor is Breaking Bread, or our very own Nancy Hand, who is now a newly minted board member. So we wanted to let's give a warm welcome to our board member and our Breaking Bread extraordinaire, Nancy Hand.
This is way up there. Hi, everybody, and it's such a pleasure to break bread with you all, and weird to be on this, but in this time of division and constant distraction, our communication breakdowns beginning to stress you out a little bit. You're raising your hand, that's true. Well, miscommunication, or rather, disengagement and conflict are costing U.S. businesses $2 billion a day today, and cost companies worldwide $8.8 trillion last year. That's with a big T. And so that's why I invite you to come and experience the Break the Bread experience, which is a combination of two of my great loves, sourdough bread baking and soft skills, which I've been teaching since 2006. And this isn't just a regular event. This is a hands-on, immersive, live virtual event where you and your teams can come and learn how to communicate better, connect, and all the magic of the sourdough bread baking process. And the baking, you will discover immediately useful and meaningful ways to connect and communicate more effectively, and do it live in real time from anywhere in the world. There's real connection baked in. It's perfect for distributed teams with a lot of different types of characters. And at the end of the day, not only do you have these great connection skills, but you get one of these beauties of your very own to share and spread and dazzle your friends and neighbors with. And I have two of these. One is for you, David, and whoever wins the lottery gets the other one. It's a rosemary sourdough, flour, water, and salt. Nothing beats the real deal.
So as a reminder, the goal for the next 5 years, based on G5, is plus 12 net new members each year. We're making progress this year, and one of our big pushes is in corporate side, and it's my pleasure to introduce Angie Ferguson of Drug-Free Clubs of America, to introduce our first new corporate member of 2024 year. And just remember that you too can be a corporate member, and all it takes is the CEO and 2 members to make that happen. So you have the price, you have 3 members for the price of 2. If you have more questions, reach out to me or Michael Schatzmore or Doug Bolton, and we can discuss further. Angie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. One of these 2 people being up there right now is like her worst nightmare, so this will not be a Michael Schatzman introduction. It will be much shorter. So it is such an honor to get to introduce you to one of my oldest friends and one of my newest friends. We all work together at Drug-Free Clubs of America. I've been there since 2005 when we founded the organization, and 3 months after I started, Heather McGowan came to us. She is our program director, and she was my little brother's best friend, and I, fair and square, stole her away. She went to Xavier, and she danced for Xavier, so her love of dance has continued throughout her life. She was on OCATS, she danced for Xavier, and then she coached Oak Hill's dance team for a long time. Just recently got away from it the past few years, and now she actually teaches at Pure Bar as well. So she is vegan, she's got amazing vegan recipes that even my carnivore husband loves. And she, if you ask her, she'll tell you she's the funniest person you know. It's such a joy to go to work with her every day. Her attention to detail is just beyond. So I'm glad she's joined us on the Pickle Girl Committee. She's already delivered fruit for the Project Fruit Basket, and I just can't wait to see where she goes with her new membership at Rotary. So welcome, Heather McGowan. Here we've got Julie Martini. She came to our team it'll be a year ago next Thursday. We met at Oktoberfest, and true to form, Julie loves a craft beer. She loves experiencing new places. Whenever we're talking, she's like, oh man, my husband Ken went to this new place, or we went to that festival, or this new restaurant. She's always experimenting, trying new things in the city, and so I'm actually learning from her places that you can go. She is an absolute angel because she was a middle school counselor for 34 years in the Coleraine School District at White Oak Middle School. And what a saint. The stories that I hear that she just has endured, and just anytime time you talk to Julie, you will come out on the other side of that conversation feeling like it's the best world ever, and you just feel so positive about yourself. She has such a gift of positivity. So she is a UC grad. She says both times. And she has also done Project Fruit Basket. She's also on the Pickle Brawl Committee, and I'm sure that they will do many other wonderful things. So thank you so much for having them as new members, and welcome, Julie Martini.
It's always great to make new introductions to the club, and we are growing, so we just want to reinforce that. Turn it over to Rotary Due Days. We have only a couple weeks away. Katie Crossan to update us on Rotary Due Days and what you can do to sign up.
Good afternoon. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of an interactive experience right now. Raise your hand if you have a green thumb or like getting to touch nature, if you like being in the green space. Okay. Raise your hand if in the course of your career, maybe in high school or college, maybe after you got out of college, you were at one point a server or a bartender. Okay. Raise your hand if you love organizing. You love straightening up, you like putting things in their place, you like making everything so. Okay, good. Have I got an opportunity for you? It is called Due Days. So Due Days, if you don't know already, it is the largest community service initiative that happens across Greater Cincinnati. On October 24th, 25th, and 26th, we will be relying on 650 volunteers to touch almost 40 organizations with a variety of service projects. Now the good news is that we are more than 50% of our way to getting those 650 volunteers. But we still need 300 more. And so we really need to put some muscle into getting those folks to signing up. Now, all of you who said that you like green landscaping or green, have a green thumb, or you like organizing, or you like serving others because maybe you were a server once upon a time, we have opportunities for you. So, what we need for you today, or okay, I'll give you till tomorrow. Can you please go on the Rotary website, if you have not already signed up for a project, and take a look and see what some of those opportunities are. And then sign up for something. Then, after that, I'm going to ask you to do something else that's really hard. Could you please share Due Days with one friend or one family member? If we do that, and we use our power of relationships, we should be able to get to those additional 300 volunteers. On the page, there's also a link for companies to self-nominate. So if you have a company or you represent an organization that likes service above self, then there are opportunities for companies to sign up to. We also are creating an ad that will promote the organization and service amongst companies in the Cincinnati Business Courier. So that's a great way for companies to get involved and say that they like to serve, is to join us for Due Days. We want to thank our sponsors, Flynn & Company and the Cincinnati Business Courier, for being our media survey, and then media sponsor. And then the last thing I do have to say, because this is really important, is that we do have 4 projects that are in danger or at risk of not being fulfilled because we don't have anybody signed up for that. So in the back, Linda has papers that you can take a look at, but really quickly the projects are the Betts Longworth Historic District. That's some green landscaping, straightening up, and it's in the West End. Dress for Success in Norwood. We need those organizers. I need your help with organizing some of those donations and getting them ready for people in need. We also have a project at New Path Child and Family Solutions, clearing weeds and small trees, and a ropes course if you're adventurous. And then also Playtime Early Learning Center at the YMCA. We need folks who like cleaning and organizing reorganizing classrooms, windows, equipment, and landscaping. So anyway, thank you for your consideration, and I will see you at due dates.
Please do sign up for Rotary Due Days. It's our third year, and it's always a massive success for our community. So we're switching gears. I talked about at the beginning, there's three main items today. We're now going to our second item, which is actually a bit of a switch. We're going to be bringing up Michelle Starr to talk about the nominating committee process and the outcome. And then we'll be switching into a business meeting to take a vote, and then switching back to our normal meeting. So I'm going to hand it over to Michelle, and please give her a warm Rotary welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to stand behind the podium, and you probably can't see me. I'm Michelle Starr, fairly new member with Rotary. I had the pleasure of participating in the nominating committee. It was really nice to see the process and see how they're creating a culture for selecting new leadership. So I have a script that I need to follow. Bear with me. So the nominating process began last February with a series of communications requesting club members to volunteer for the nominating committee. In May, President nominee Lisa Lickard, raise your hand, Lisa, there she is. Lisa Lickard was selected and the board approved 4 club members who are not board members to serve on the nominating committee, which was myself, Pete Armstrong, Mike LaValle, and Darlene Underwood. We served along with 3 board members designated by the bylaws. President Eric Petway, President-elect Lisa Lickard, and past President Doug Bolden. Is Doug here? Oh, there he is. I got it. Nominations for director, treasurer, and president nominee were solicited in May and June. Thank you to all of the club members who were nominated and were willing to serve. The nominating committee met during the summer and voted on a slate of candidates to recommend to the board. The following recommendations were made. President-elect Lisa Lickard, President nominee Ed Mathis. Ed, you're here. Raise your hand. Thank you. Treasurer Bob Brandstetter. Bob, there he is. Director Stephanie Sherd. There she is, right there. Director Huxley Miller, back there. Yes. And Director Steve Easley. The slate was presented to the board of directors in July with an opportunity for board members to add any additional candidates to the ballot. At its meeting in August, the board voted to approve the slate of candidates and also confirmed Lisa Lickard, president-elect, as the candidate for president beginning in July 2025. Ed Mathis will serve as president nominee until he becomes president-elect in July 2025. Bob Brandstetter will start a new 2-year term as club treasurer in July 2025. 2 new directors, Stephanie Sherd and Stephen Easley, will assume the director positions currently held by Bill Stilley and Ed Mathis. Huxley Miller will continue on the board as a director in a new 3-year term. He was appointed by the board in Rotary's last fiscal year to fill the expiring 3-year term of Jeff Weider, who resigned from the board before his term was over. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion for the club to elect the candidates as presented.
Second.
Wait. Thank you. Well, thanks, Michelle, for not only serving and so Michelle, you made a motion, and we did her second. And all in favor say yes. Yes. All opposed say no. All right, it's approved. And congratulations to all the new members. I'd like to thank all the club members who were nominated for their willingness to be considered for a board position to serve our club. The depth of talent here is the envy of the district. If you are interested in being a part of the nominating committee, or to submit your name for consideration for a future board or officer position, we'll be beginning this process again in a few months. Stay tuned and let me know if I can help. Is there a motion to close the annual meeting? Second? Ed Mathis is already working hard. All in favor? Aye. So approved. Thanks, Michelle. Now we're going to go back to our normal meeting, starting with announcements. There are 2 committee meetings. Heartfelt Rotary Cincinnati Club. Welcome to David Whelan.
Hey everybody, thank you very, very much for having me. So I'm David Whelan. I'm a Team USA para-triathlete. I race representing the US nationally and internationally. Everybody here knows what triathlon is: swimming, biking, and then running. I also race in Ironman 70.3 triathlons. I just got back from a 6.5-week tour in Europe where I was literally racing the hardest organized triathlon in the world. 3 weeks after that, I went to Tallinn, Estonia, and I raced in the Ironman 70.3 European Championships, where I took first place in that category. So I brought the European Championship to Cincinnati with me. So yeah, absolutely awesome. I get to live my dreams right now, just traveling and training full time, being a professionally sponsored para-triathlete. I hold my pro card in short course triathlon. But that's not where my journey started. That's training at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. In March 12th of 2012, I was injured in a work-related accident. Had my foot crushed by a piece of equipment, and then from there I was subsequently diagnosed with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. For about 6.5 years, I had multiple surgeries during that time trying to save my affected leg. Being diagnosed with CRPS, it felt like I was constantly being lit on fire and stabbed repeatedly. I also developed a condition called folliculitis, which was really weird. I'd never heard that before. But it's when you have an inflammation of the hair follicle. So my skin was so incredibly sensitive that everything I felt, whether it was a slight breeze going over my leg, or putting on shorts or pants, or even putting my leg in the bed at night, it would irritate my hair follicles so much that it felt like I was being set on fire, and I was having sandpaper just ripping off burning flesh. So like I said, I battled that condition for about 6.5 years, and I had multiple surgeries trying to save my affected foot. Unfortunately, after each one of those surgeries, none of them helped rebuild or reshape my foot, but it caused my nerve condition to spread higher and higher up my leg. With the increase in pain that I was having, depression followed, anxiety followed, PTSD, and unfortunately suicidal ideations. Then the suicidal ideations unfortunately turned into two suicide attempts that I had. I think as human beings, one of the things that we really strive to have is our sense of community, right? We're communal beings, we drive a sense of community. But I was going through a situation that nobody could relate to me about. I was 24 when I was injured. I had this nerve condition. There was nobody that could understand what it was that I was going through. So I found all my pain and all my validation through external content that it was that I was taking in, right? All the negative music I was listening to, all the negative movies I was watching, really shaped the dialogue that I had, and constantly telling myself on repeat how broken I am, right? And I feel like we're the sum of the content that we take in that reshape, or that shapes the dialogue that we have with ourselves. So I really started understanding in the picture. But yeah, it turned into me just, I jumped up to about 230 pounds and just wildly, depressed and just suicidal. At that time, I moved up to the mountains and understood that I had to go inward and I had to start really understanding what it was that I was feeding myself. I needed to get away from all the distractions that I had, right? Like I needed to get away from all the negative stimulus that I had built around myself. And I moved up to the mountains and I started focusing on being outside and I started focusing on my mindset. And when I started focusing on my mindset, I started smiling. Like I started getting out in the sun and I started doing work and showing myself that I'm not as broken as I thought I was. That kind of takes me to the story of the two wolves. Have you guys heard that before? It's a beautiful story that really articulates, what it is that we tell ourselves is incredibly important. So there's a grandpa sitting with his grandson sharing stories and life lessons, and he looks at the grandson and says, "Did you know within you lives two wolves?" And the grandson says, "What do you mean?" He says that there's two wolves who lives within you and lives within all of you, and they're fighting this battle. And one wolf represents pain, represents anger, represents resentment, and just everything negative. And the other wolf represents love and gratitude and perseverance and strength. And again, these wolves are within everybody. They're fighting this battle. The grandson says, well, which one of the wolves is going to win? The grandpa says, the one that you feed. Right? The one that you feed is going to be the determining factor and if we're going to be successful moving forward. And I understood that I had to start feeding a positive and powerful perspective on what it was that I was going to go through if I was going to be successful in getting through this. I was justifying suicide on a daily basis, and I understood that wasn't an option for me. I had to keep pushing forward. I had to feed that as much as possible. So what do you want to be good at? Is it something in your personal life? Is it something in your professional life? Maybe in your athletic life? I encourage you to take a second and think about what it is that we're feeding, right? Being a triathlete, one of the most common things that I hear before the race even starts is, I'm going to survive the sweat. Ultimately, what you're telling yourself is, don't die, right? So before you even get into the race, you have created the strongest word in your subconscious to now be die. So that's going to develop anxiety, and it's going to tear apart your entire race and your experience before you even start. But what if we change that perspective? What if we tell ourselves something different? Right? So I understood that I just needed to start reshaping that and feeding that as much as possible. So again, what is it that you guys are feeding? And what is that dialogue? Is it helping us move forward, or is it keeping us from really even getting to that start line? One of the things that I use is meditation a lot. Meditation has been absolutely key in everything it is that I do. I find that a lot of flow state meditation in my swimming. But before I even get on the start line, or even before I came up here today, I practiced breathing techniques, right? Understanding that anxiety manifests in my body as well, right? So oftentimes when people say I'm having an anxiety attack, they'll say it feels like I have an elephant sitting on my chest, and your breathing pattern is probably going to be shallow and it's going to be very rapid. So I practice breathing techniques, and that helps me move forward. So one of the things that I do is I put one hand on my belly and I put one hand on my chest. And my goal is to breathe into my belly. And I understand that when I breathe into my belly, having that cavity fill up with oxygen first and air, and then fill up my chest cavity. And then I slowly exhale about 2 to 3 times as slow as I inhale. So that's one of the things that really helps me out. So, if you're going through a stressful situation, maybe anxiety-inducing, try out a helpful breathing technique. That really does help a lot. And, slowing down your exhale too. One of the things that I lean on a lot is my support system, right? I have my support system tell me everything it is that I need to know. And I expect them to tell me the truth, coming from a place of love and grace and gratitude, but understanding that I'm not going to progress unless I know exactly what it is that I'm doing wrong, that I need to do. So I surround myself with a team of coaches that I fully empower, that, hey, if I'm not, stepping up to the plate and doing what it is that I need to do to reach these goals, you have my full permission to tell me. My fiance, she understands that I need to know what I need to know. If I'm slipping in one area or another, that's going to keep me from reaching those big, massive goals. one of my big goals is I'm racing, it's called the Great World Race, January of 2026. It's 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And I'm hoping to be the first amputee to be able to complete this. So when I say I need to be dedicated to my goals, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of room for that. So again, my support system is absolutely massive. And yeah, I'd love to talk to you guys about some of the cool races I got going on. But I was showing up for myself mentally, right? And but I understood that I needed to start showing up for myself physically. So I started going to the gym and I started redefining my wins and redefining my victories and what each victory looked like. And sure, I was in a heck of a lot of pain at that time, right? Like my CRPS, that burning and stabbing sensation, it was almost up to just past my knee, up to my quad. But I started redefining my victories. And if my victory for the day was just sitting in the door of the gym and giving myself love, grace, and gratitude for where I'm at, and also for where I'm not at yet, I had to smile into that as much as possible. And I started showing up to the gym more, and I started seeing physical change happen. And yeah, it just kept growing from there. 2018, I had the opportunity to elect to amputate. I was given a 99% chance of being completely pain-free if I amputated. 99%, you know, the folliculitis, having the air go by my leg, not being able to set foot into a pool, you know, not being able to run for the better part of a decade, all of that would be completely changed if I decided to amputate, right? Unfortunately, the amputation went absolutely horribly. That CRPS condition, the burning and stabbing, it took over the entire left side of my body. So much so that I couldn't hold my now fiance's hand with my left hand. I couldn't even go to the dentist and get my teeth cleaned without having my surgeon sign a release of liability because they were worried about the condition spreading to my brain. At that time, doctors were saying they're sorry, that there wasn't a whole heck of a lot that they could do for me. So they were recommending long-term medical care for the eventuality of the condition completely shutting down my body. I knew that I had to focus on everything it was that I had developed, all the tools and techniques that I worked through and that I developed for myself, to focus on my mindset, right? Like I unknowingly developed this process for myself that I'm slowly writing a book on. It's called Negative to Neutral, Neutral to Positive, and Positive to Powerful, right? Like I knew that I couldn't, it was going to be quicksand if I focused on all the negative stuff, and it was just going to keep dragging me down. But I also knew that I couldn't focus on being positive all the time either, right? Like everybody says, just be positive, just be positive. But we're going to call ourselves on that all day. What's that space between being negative and being positive called? For me, that's called the art of neutrality, just letting a situation be what it is. I don't have to assign it a positive. I don't have to assign it a negative. I can just let it be what it is and give myself love, grace, and gratitude for where I'm at and where I'm not at yet. So I applied that practice to my everyday, and I just kept showing up every single day. This device that I'm wearing in all these pictures, this was my leg for 2 years. That's how I did absolutely everything in a massive, massive amount of pain. But I understood that if I could just keep showing myself how strong I am, no storm lasts forever. All I have to do is keep weathering the storm, right? So I kept showing up, and the more I showed up, the more I would heal myself. Not necessarily physically, but mentally, right? Like I was suffering poorly less, and I was suffering well. I learned how to suffer well just by showing up for the day. In 2020, March of 2020, I had my revision surgery done. We all know what happened March of 2020, right? COVID shutdowns, right? So I had a long 7-hour surgery where they reshaped the distal end of my residual limb and created a bone bridge, and then remapped the nerves in back of my leg to bypass pain receptors in my brain. I was told that I had to leave the hospital 5 days after my long 7-hour surgery because I was at risk for having a weakened immune system, and right across the hall was the COVID unit. So I had to go home and I had to manage all of my wound care by ourselves. Physical therapy offices were closed. So I ended up, having to teach myself how to walk again. But fortunately, after those few months following the surgery, I had a massive amount of pain reduction. Like that burning and stabbing sensation from just touching the hair on my leg, like that was slowly going away. It was trending in the right direction. So much so that I ended up getting fit for a prosthetic, and I took my first steps again. And then I ended up getting my what's called a definitive prosthetic, which is this fella. And I walked for the first time July 3rd of 2020. And then that following November, I ran for the first time. And it has been the most beautiful and incredible journey. But for me, that starts in the mind, right? Like I have to speak it into existence. I think that you said that when we were chatting a little bit ago. You know, we have to speak those things into existence, and we have to really believe it, and that has to become our dialogue. And it's taken me literally all across the world now, racing with Team USA, currently ranked 4th in the country, you know, doing some really cool Spark races. That picture on the left is me running for the first time. I ran 4 miles and just had an incredible time. But yeah, I've constantly just been raising my bar and just showing myself how incredibly strong I am. You know, during my journey, I looked for every piece of evidence to show myself how broken I was, and I found it, right? And I harbored it, and I internalized it, and that became who I was. Now I show myself how strong and powerful I am with everything it is that I do, by doing literally the hardest triathlon in the world, and then, you know, all these Ironman races. I'm feeding myself every opportunity to show myself how strong and powerful I constantly am. So again, I invite you to take a second and just think about where you're at in your lives, and what are we feeding right now? Are we feeding strength and positivity, or are we feeding something that's keeping us from even getting to the start line, or keeping us from that goal, or starting that new journey or opportunity? Just what are we feeding, right? So again, you know, the goal is just not to be negative, but if I could focus on being neutral when I can't be positive, then fantastic. But what's the progression from that? It's being positive. And if I can focus on feeding a positive perspective, then fantastic. And then from positive, it's powerful, right? So, there's nothing that we can't do. It starts in the dialogue that we have and what we're feeding ourselves. So, that is a little bit about my journey. This is a link to my Instagram if any of you guys are on social media. I got some awesome races coming up that I'm more than happy to chat about. Ultimately, I'm here for you guys. If you have any questions, I'd love to open it up if we have some time. But yeah, feel free to ask anything.
We have a lot of focus on victimhood in our culture in this country, and maybe in others as well. Thinking about 9/11 and the other tragedies that we kind of rub those wounds. How do we get out of the trap of feeling like victims and feel a sense of agency and hope again? Thinking about the political situation.
Yeah. For me, you know, what got me out of being a victim was honestly just being so sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Like I couldn't do it anymore. I was justifying suicide on a regular basis. And, you know, for so many reasons I couldn't do that. I didn't want to hurt my parents. I didn't want to hurt my loved ones. But I understood that, you know, the victim mentality is quicksand. It's the quickest way to drag you down and keep you from any sense of progress. So I feel like if somebody is wanting to move away from the victim mentality, having that really honest conversation with yourself, and, you know, one of the questions that I constantly ask myself is, does this serve me? And if it doesn't serve me and my goal, then I don't have time for it, I don't have space for it. But like, I feel like it's also an inconvenient question for a lot of people to ask, because the answer to that question ultimately means that you have to start putting in the work. And I'm fully aware of, you know, for me the magic is in the work. Like the medicine is in the work, the therapy is in the work, like everything is in the work. But until you're ready to start doing that work, probably not going to change.
Were you an active athlete before your accident, or did you start when else?
I was an active participant. Like I was a bench warmer. All of this is new. I was going to school to be a paramedic firefighter. I was in Fire Academy. But yeah, in terms of like doing a 5K, 10K, you know, the full Ironman distance that I did, it was a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a full marathon run up the side of a mountain. All of that is new, so incredibly exciting. I'm very, very, very fortunate to have incredible parents that have been great role models. My dad, growing up, always listened to Tony Robbins. You know, so I didn't think my parents were cool, right? When I was growing up, I think a lot of kids don't, kind of thing. But reverting back to all the things that are true, right? Like I've started surrounding myself with a lot of just positive content, and all of that content was all the same stuff that he told us as kids and had us listen to. It's like, it's all true, right? Like, Seneca said, conquer your mind and conquer the world. Whether you believe that you are or you aren't, right? Like, I've been surrounded by all of these like messages throughout the years and growing up, and especially now I'm trying to navigate my trauma. That it's, I put energy into all of that.
I'm just curious about the marathon that you're training for right now with 6 days. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the marathon I'm training for. So I have one more run that I'm doing before that. May 1st, so I haven't actually, I guess I'll officially announce it. I'm running the Ohio to Erie Trail May 1st, which is 326 miles. So I work with a couple different foundations as well, trying to gain, being an amputee, the ability to run as an amputee is considered a luxury and not a medical necessity. So I work with a foundation. It's a state-by-state initiative. We've been able to enact insurance reform in 8 different states throughout the country to have insurance companies cover running blades as a form of medical necessity, with the understanding that movement is medicine, and it should be for everybody. So I'm doing that run in an effort to spread awareness on the need for running as an amputee. But yeah, 777, 7 on 7 continents in 7 days. It is $50,000 just for me to get to the start line. So I have to raise $50,000 for this race, which seems insane. But what that covers is a private jet and a team of doctors and physicians, and also my race entry into each one of these countries. It starts in the Antarctica, sub-zero conditions. Oftentimes, it gets so cold that the plane has to drop me off and then pick me up right when I'm done, because it's pretty dangerous for the plane, I guess. So, and then from there, I get to have a wild journey just running across the world. And you also got to think that some of these countries border each other, so on one of the days I actually have to run 52 miles, which is fantastic. So I got some really cool races coming. Yeah, so I've recently started speaking in high schools and sharing my journey. I actually started going to Xavier and speaking over there, and speaking with their meditation department. But yeah, for me it is meditation. Like, I go straight to my meditation and I focus on my breathing pattern and my breathing techniques, and I figure out where the anxiety is living at in my body. And ultimately, more often than not, it's living in my mind, but I'm not able to get there yet because I need to focus on my breathing pattern. I need to slow myself down, which that common is going to bring me, that ability to make rational thoughts and decisions. So yeah, everything for me starts with breathing and meditation. Once I'm able to get myself into a cool, calm, and collected state. So focusing on meditation, creating action. I believe that we're communal beings. We thrive in a sense of community. How can we be active and have ourselves, work on things like goal setting and for me, again, I believe that the medicine is in the work that we do, right? So just being active. So what else? And then positive inner dialogue, right? Like, just not being negative. It doesn't really matter what it is. I was in Europe and it was thunderstorming, and I got into an Uber and I was like, hey man, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? It's like, it's raining outside. Still an incredibly beautiful day. Like, that doesn't stop a beautiful day from being beautiful. It's just, we tend to assign something a positive or a negative when it doesn't have the ability to be a positive or a negative. It is what you assign it to be, right? So like, just having it be something that's beautiful rather than, I'm doing today, right? Like, Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
So each year we have a theme of Rotary. This year's theme is the magic of Rotary. And you certainly have a magic to give us of thinking about our mental health, thinking about progressing and making a change in how we think. So we want to honor your presentation today in two ways. One, we have a global challenge to the world to end polio, which Rotary Clubs International, as well as our club and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have been working on for many years. We're making a donation in your name to end polio. And we have a token for you to remember your presentation with us. On the one side has a beautiful skyline with the Rotary Bridge, and on the other side has a four-ways test that Hux Miller recited earlier at the beginning of our meeting. We hope that you look at this and when you're doing your meditation and think about what the mission is to us. And we hope one day you become a Rotary Club of Cincinnati member, and as well as your future wife. So thanks so much. And if you have, I don't know if you have time or you have to go off. So he will stay if you have any further questions. Let's also congratulate. Let's have all of the new executive officers stand up, as well as the new board members, and let's thank them again for their great work. So we're actually going to see Ed Mathis again next week, because Lisa Licker, myself, and Sarah are going to the large club conference in Memphis, Tennessee. So Ed will be running the show, and I know he does a great job at that. So, but don't forget, we have a meeting next Thursday here at the Transept. Deborah Brant, CEO of Cincinnati Ballet. Get your reservations in by tomorrow by 5 p.m. And don't forget to also sign up for Rotary Days and all the events that are coming up. Have a great week. We'll see you in the future weeks together. Meeting adjourned.